Good evening. Fire gutted the popular Rocky Point seafood restaurant in Clarendon early this morning. The fire that began shortly after 4 a.m. damaged the main building and the main dining area. Deputy Superintendent in charge of the Fire Brigade's Clarendon branch, Dennis Lyon, said that the Fire Brigade received a call of a building on fire at White Sand Beach, Rocky Point, 5 minutes after the blaze started, and upon arrival, the restaurant and reception area were engulfed by flames. He further reported that the brigade got into operation and was able to bring the fire under control, which was subsequently extinguished. He said that the fire department is concerned because there are 2 buildings on the property and both were destroyed and they were not in proximity of each other. Up to late afternoon, investigators were at the scene doing further assessments to determine the cause of the fire. In December, a section of the property was destroyed by fire. It was later refurbished. However, that same structure was once again completely destroyed in this morning's fire. Now, this incident has reportedly left 24 persons jobless. In other news tonight, the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF has arrested and will charge the man they believe is behind several bomb threat hoaxes in Montego Bay, St. James. Head of Area 1, Assistant Commissioner Clifford Chambers, says the police used technology to track down the source of the threats. Now, the man is facing several charges, including creating public mischief and breaches of the Cybercrimes Act. On 3 separate days this week, the Sagicor complex in St. James was evacuated following a bomb threat. Ordnance disposal teams from the JCF and the Jamaica Defense Force were called to the location on each occasion. Each threat turned out to be false. It's understood the disruption cost the businesses in the area millions of dollars. ACP Chambers says the male in question was in an intimate relationship with a woman who works in one of the business establishments on the complex. As we continue with the news tonight, Minister of Education and Youth FAYVAL Williams says her ministry will fast-track the implementation of the Schoolwide Positive Behavior Intervention and Support SWPBIS initiative. This is in response to incidents of violent conflicts among students, particularly in high schools. At least 4 institutions have reported such occurrences, 1 fatal since the start of 2022. In the latest incident last Wednesday, a student from Excelsior High School was hospitalized after a stabbing incident at the institution. 2 days prior, a William Knibb High School student was fatally stabbed by another, reportedly over a guard ring. According to Williams, the ministry will be working with the United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF to determine the extent to which the SWPBIS initiative can be expanded. The SWPBIS is tailored to create and sustain safe schools by fostering a disciplined and structured environment to deal with challenges such as student violence. It targets issues like truancy and behavior modification among adolescents through a data-driven approach and developing pro-social skills. Noting that the initiative was being piloted in several institutions, Williams said the exercise had been stalled at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic when schools were forced to close. Now, the minister pointed out that UNICEF has been exploring how to incorporate trauma education in the interventions and how to help teachers identify students who are from homes where they are subjected to physical punishments. Minister Williams further advised that the Education Ministry will be working with the Ministry of Justice to commence instilling restorative justice concepts in students. Now, this focuses on rehabilitating offenders through reconciliation with victims and the community at large. Still making Mello TV news, the curfew imposed in sections of the St. Andrew South Police Division has been extended for another 48 hours. It was scheduled to end today. However, it will now end at 6 p.m. tomorrow, March 29. The boundaries of the curfew are as follows. North along Imaginary Line A from Imaginary Line B, the vicinity of Potosi Avenue, to Malines Road in the vicinity of Glendale Drive. Then east along Malines Road from Imaginary Line A in the vicinity of Glendale Drive to Washington Boulevard. Then south along Washington Boulevard from Malines Road to Imaginary Line B in the vicinity of Elmer Crescent. Then west along Imaginary Line B in the vicinity of Elmer Crescent from Washington Boulevard to Imaginary Line A in the vicinity of Potosi Avenue. All persons within the boundaries of the curfew are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized in writing by the ground commander. Still making the news tonight, police statistics reveal that up to March 20 this year, 320 cases of homicide have been recorded on the island. However, when compared to the 337 recorded in 2021 over the same period, there has been a 5% decline or 17 homicides. On Saturday, a 13-year-old girl was injured and 3 persons were killed in a gun attack in which 8 persons were shot on Warwick Drive in Norwood St. James, a community located in Dr. Horace Chang's St. James Northwest constituency. According to the St. James Police, the attack took place at about 10:15 a.m. when men armed with high-powered weapons entered the Norwood community and opened fire at several persons who were walking along Warwick Drive. In 2021, Jamaica was labeled as one of the most violent countries in the Caribbean, with 49.4 homicides per 100,000, placing the island as having the highest homicide rate in Latin America and the Caribbean. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says prosperity and economic growth are under threat and could derail the ability of the government to meet its obligations to pay suitable wages or carry out infrastructural developments if crime and violence are not brought under control. Dr. Chang was delivering the keynote address at Saturday's launch of a National Social Services Fair aimed at rescuing at-risk youth who are figured among gang-related activities that are responsible for the country's high homicide figures. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Courtney Williams, has said that the government remains steadfast in its fight against the scourge of human trafficking and is prepared to provide the appropriate resources required to deal with the problem. Speaking recently at the opening of Jamaica's first child-friendly space for victims of human trafficking and other serious crimes at the Falmouth Police Station in Trelawney, Williams said that human trafficking represents a threat to Jamaica's safety and security operations. He said strategic plans are being made to apprehend and rein in perpetrators of illegal and inhumane transnational crime. Williams, who is also the chairperson of Jamaica's National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, NATFATIP, stated that another key component to combating human trafficking is the strengthening of cooperation and collaboration locally and internationally. He pointed out that the Child Protection Compact CDC Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and the Jamaican government is one such partnership that has been ultimately assisting in their efforts to fight trafficking in persons in Jamaica. Now, in a strategic and tactical move, Williams said the government is doing everything to stop traffickers in their tracks and bring them to justice. And we turn our attention now to tonight's COVID-19 update, where Jamaica reported 25 new cases of COVID-19 and 2 fatalities yesterday, according to the latest statistics from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Now, this has increased the total of cases of the virus since the start of the pandemic to 128,704, and the death toll now to 2,881. The country also recorded 56 additional recoveries, increasing the total of recovered persons now to 80,886, while there are 212 confirmed active cases on the island. In tonight's COVID-19 parish breakdown, Kingston and St. Andrew recorded 11 cases, St. James recorded 5 cases, St. Anne 3 cases, St. Catherine recorded 2 cases, while Clarendon, Manchester, St. Thomas and Westmoreland recorded 1 case each. Meanwhile, the latest deaths include a 59-year-old female from Westmoreland whose death was reported as under investigation in February, and an 85-year-old male from Trelawney whose death was reported as under investigation in January. As we continue with the news tonight, the National Land Agency, NLA, is to distribute more than 350 certificates of titles to residents of Flagaman, Berlin, Potsdam, and Exton in St. Elizabeth tomorrow. The titles will be issued under the agency's systematic land registration program, which was launched in 2019 to assist persons who have been in open, undisturbed, and undisputed possession of land for 12 years or more. This distribution activity follows the agency's inaugural systematic land registration land titling ceremony held on February 23 this year, which saw 35 residents receiving their certificates of title under the program. Residents living in the remaining communities of Burnt Savannah and Essex Valley in the parish should expect to receive their titles in the upcoming 2022 to 2023 fiscal year. Chief Executive Officer and Commissioner of Lands at the National Land Agency, Ms. Cherise Walcott, noted that the systematic land registration program will contribute to the fulfillment of the agency's mandate to issue 20,000 titles in 3 years. Ms. Walcott further highlighted that the Prime Minister has declared several communities as Systematic Adjudication Areas, SAAS, and as a result, residents should expect representatives from the agency to visit their communities to adjudicate their rights and interests in land. And those are the stories making news. We now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with the latest in sports.